Hello everyone and welcome to Inside Leather History, a Fireside Chat. I'm Doug OKeeffe and I'm the host of the chats, which are a production of the Leather Archives and Museum. Today I'm doing something completely different and it's fascinating. I am at Camp Buckwood in Spearsville, Indiana. We're about an hour or so south of Indianapolis. Yes, okay. We are in Indiana farm country. There are fields, there are farmhouses, and we are at a clothing optional resort called Camp Buckwood. I am interviewing the owners of Camp Buckwood today. I have Darrel, Gill, and Ben Gleason. How are you guys?
Great.
Thank you for having me here. Let's go on inside.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. We'll see what it's like inside. We are now in the, I guess it would be the main lobby of the lodge here at Camp Buckwood. And I'm going to ask Darrel and Ben to walk us through a little bit and talk about some of the things they have here in the main lobby. You've got a fantastic painting right there, Ben. What is that?
My mom painted this. These are me and my brothers growing up. And that's my mom there. And this is a wishing tree that a group, pansexual group, BDSM group, used to have a wishing tree that they would burn, and these are some of the ashes and relics left over from it. So,
fantastic!
It's part of the property. And then this is our dining room where we serve everybody. More paintings from my mom.
Let's look at those a second.
Okay.
These are obviously really important to you because you've got them right here in the lobby.
Yeah, it's just a nice gift from my mom, who loved to paint, and it kind of evokes the landscape that we're in and country lifestyle. And yeah, it's exciting. And then we have a picture up here that she did, and here's a picture of Darrel and I when we first began dreaming of Camp Buckwood. And then
you guys were so young. Look at that.
We were babies.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who's this pretty lady?
And that is my mom. She loved coming up for friends and family. She would come up from Louisiana and entertain the guys with her karaoke and her flash and flair, and the guys just loved her. Like the ultimate fag hag. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and we'll move on to the second section. Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for having me here at Camp Buckwood. It's only my second time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you. You know, it's word of mouth that got me here, and I have to say it's fantastic, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is what, your 21st year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's our 21st year being open and 23rd year of the first shovel hitting the dirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. But I always want to ask my guests a little bit about who you are, where you're from. So Darrel, I'm going to go ahead and ask you first, because when we were preparing for this interview, you told me some fascinating information about your early life that is simply amazing, at least to me. You come from very interesting family circumstances. They were challenging, fascinating. Please tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I was first born, my parents were not in church, so that was how I was raised in the very beginning up until probably about second grade. Then my parents found Christ, and our lives changed drastically. When I was in the third grade, some of my mother's family had come up from Tennessee. A prophet had told them that Jesus Christ was returning by 1976 to within an 80-mile radius of a little town, Tellico Plains, Tennessee.
I'm sorry, where?
Tellico Plains, Tennessee.
Tellico Plains, Tennessee.
Yeah, so a few hundred of us from several states moved to that particular area, and we lived there for almost 4 years. We lived there without running water, electricity, indoor plumbing.
Wow.
And we were basically in church 7 days a week. Church was not in actual physical buildings. It was usually in people's homes, members of the church that we were in. And so we lived that way lots of times without food, and not much food. And eventually by 1976, when Jesus didn't return, we all seemed to return back to the states from which we came. So,
were you disappointed that Jesus didn't come?
Well, I don't know if I was disappointed myself. You know, I was just not really happy with the way we were living then because it was so tough. I was just ready to get away, get out of Tennessee. So I'm sure that the elder people of the church were disappointed that Jesus didn't come. So
I think they might be, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ben, you're from New Orleans. Tell us a little bit about your past.
I am. My parents, my dad lived in New Orleans, met my mom, and started a family there, and we were a far more secular family. My parents were kind of hippie-ish a little bit, and then when my parents split up when I was about 7 or so, I spent time in Ohio and in New Orleans, so familiar with the Midwest and small town life. So yeah, half of my stock is from small town Midwest and half is from party capital USA, New Orleans.
Where is small town Ohio for you then?
It's an hour east of Cincinnati, and it's a little town called Ripley, and it's maybe 1,500 people. And my grandmother lived there, my grandparents on my mom's side, and all my aunts and uncles and cousins. So, yeah.
and it's right off of 52.
It's right on US 52 on the Ohio River. Yep.
And where I grew up in Indiana was pretty much right on 52. It's just an hour from Cincinnati to the west.
Oh, okay.
His time in Ohio was an hour from Cincinnati to the east.
On the same highway.
Basically on the same highway.
So basically, you guys grew up roughly 2 hours apart or so. I mean, that's pretty coincidental.
Yeah.
At least for about 5 years of our lives. So it's 5 years of our childhood.
Yeah.
Well, when I first moved to the Cincinnati area in 1991, of the bars in Cincinnati, the gay bars, it was my favorite bar. It was called the Plum Street Pipeline.
Plum Street Pipeline.
Yes, Pipeline for short. And I played softball in the gay softball league, and on Thursdays that was the hangout for all the softball teams. So it was my favorite bar, and then I started working in another gay bar. I worked there until 1995, and the pipeline came for sale. And so we bought the pipeline, and we're downtown Cincinnati, and we had that for 10 years.
Why did you choose to buy the bar?
Because I had started accumulating a little bit of money by flipping a couple of houses and buildings, and wanted to do something that, with that money. I talked to my grandfather and asked him what he thought I should do, and he said, do what you know, do what you love. And at the particular time, having worked in bars for years, I felt like I knew bars, and I enjoyed the environment. So that's why the bar came about.
What kind of a bar was it?
So when I bought the bar, it was a men's bar. It had 2 levels, the main street level and then a basement bar. And when we bought it knowing that if we did the things that were necessary to bring it to fire code accessible, we could utilize all 4 levels. And so it was basically a neighborhood bar by day and a club by night in the upper 2 floors. So.
Wild. Okay. Was it successful?
Yeah, it was very successful.
Very successful. Yeah.
Okay.
And I met Darrel when he was bartending at Spurs, which is the Levi Leather Bar in Cincinnati. A lot of the viewers will probably remember that bar.
Spurs Bar, okay.
It's famous for its hurricane parties, and that's where I met Darrel. And then when he bought the bar, we switched gears, and that was my first glimpse of knowing how Darrel operated, is that he's always making things better. He's always improving things and building things. And we brought that kind of motto here to camp. We just keep building and improving.
I can't help but ask, you were a bartender, but how did you actually meet? I mean, was it love at first sight? Or how did
Well, I had moved from New Orleans to come out of the closet in Cincinnati, which most people would be like,
I know.
what? You're going backwards. But and then he was working a happy hour shift, and I had just finished applying for jobs. And
that's how we first met. And, as far as there was definitely intrigue at first sight, there was sparks right away. So,
Great.
Yeah. And so we started talking. We didn't really go out on a date for a couple of months, right? And then we went out on a couple of dates. he was going to be in New Orleans for, I can't remember what it was,
Thanksgiving or something?
and I had a trip planned for New Orleans. So we had actually been communicating for a couple months. And
We actually dated.
yeah,
Cool.
so yeah, we had like 3 months of dating before we had sex.
Aha.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
Traditional.
That almost, is unheard of.
Right, yeah.
So how long have you been together?
Almost 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Truly beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's building involved, there's all kinds of logistics involved in this situation. Why did you choose a campground in rural Indiana?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is this particular location, because we lived in 3 different states, and we spent most of the time looking in this particular county for a couple of reasons. One, its proximity to larger cities. We're within 4 hours from Nashville, Tennessee, Chicago, we're 4 hours from St. Louis, 3 hours from Columbus, a couple hours from Cincinnati, a couple hours from Louisville,
Okay.
hour from Indianapolis, and everything in between. So we wanted to be in this particular county for that reason, and also
Okay.
because we knew that this, other than Marion County, is the #1 tourist county in Indiana.
Which county, I'm sorry?
Brown County.
Oh, Brown County.
Brown County is where we are, but so we knew that this county was used to doing businesses like we were proposing to do, so this was the perfect location for us.
Fascinating. And I find that absolutely fascinating in this red state.
Yes.
Truly.
Well, there's a funny story. There was a police officer local from Indiana that used to come to the pipeline in Cincinnati, and we told him what we were going to do and where we were going to do it, and he's like, "Good luck with that."
Yeah, he grew up about 2 miles from here, actually.
Oh,
He was
wow.
like,
He was
"Sure
like,
you are."
you're gonna do what? Where?
Wow.
And then he comes back still,
Yeah.
and he's like, "You proved me wrong. You
Still
did it.
sheriff's deputy also.
I did not think it was gonna fly, but it has."
But we were the first in the history of the state to do this type of business, and that's something that we're proud of.
Proud of
So-
that. Yeah.
Before we go too far, please explain gay camping, because there's going to be somebody somewhere who doesn't know this. What does that entail?
It's a lot like regular camping, but we got our inspiration from Timberfell in Tennessee, which is sort of the granddad of gay campgrounds in America. And we would drive to Tennessee on our days off, which were rare, and we just loved the community and loved what people could do. You could drop your inhibitions at the gate. You could camp. You could walk around naked. You could hook up. You could do whatever you wanted, and within reason. And it just was very freeing. And we thought, why isn't there something like this in the Midwest?
Okay.
And Darrel's like, well, we can do it. I'm like, can we? He's like, yeah, we can.
Yeah, I mean, gay camping, just like Ben said, it's pretty much like regular camping, just a little different. We still do the campfires, which is really important, part of camping. Socializing with your fellow campers, things like that, and swimming and hiking in the trails, and so pretty much the same. It's just add gay men, it becomes more fun.
There was a little bit of history, though, to this particular space that you acquired, if I remember something from our preparations on this. Why this location?
We looked for 18 months or so at different properties, and it was hard to find the criteria that we wanted, which was not a lot of road frontage. We wanted privacy, woods, a pond, a house, some barns. So that was like finding a needle in a haystack. And then we just saw a for sale sign. We said, well, let's just go look and see. And it was the middle of winter. The place was covered in snow. And we turned down the driveway, and I don't even think we were halfway to the lodge down the driveway. And we're like, this might be it. Like, we knew it.
Wow.
But some of the history of this particular property, there's basically 2 predominant families that live in this immediate area to the left and to the right of our entrance, and they're the Richards and the Arnolds. Good people, but this particular property over time has kind of been the outcast, even before us. There's a little red cabin dating back to 1938 right behind the lodge here. And there's a chalkboard on it because the people that lived here in the 80s, they worked as air traffic controllers, and when radio fired air traffic controllers, they continued to homeschool their children, And what the story they told us from their mouths was they didn't want their children growing up with the rednecks around the area, so they homeschooled them here. And then just different stories of previous owners just being kind of odd and different throughout the history of this property. So it's, I guess, kind of fitting that we end up here.
And each resident or representative of each resident has come back to see the property since we've moved
Yeah.
here.
Wow.
Yeah.
All families have
All
come
five.
back.
The
That's
original
incredible.
house was built in the
1938.
1938. It was added on to in 1972, and each family that occupied it has come back to visit.
Wow.
And the people that we
Wow.
bought it from, their minds were blown when they came back, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Good for you."
Yeah, they came back last year for the first time in 20 years, and we were super excited because it was their first time back.
Yeah.
So they hadn't seen us for 20 years, and they got to see all the things that we've done.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Well, your campground was not built in a day. Tell me about the progression. How did this, what we see today, how did this happen?
so when we found the location, the first thing that we did is, well, from the beginning, we decided that we were going to have a one-man front to the county government and the local community, because we were afraid that was, seeing two faces would
I
make
see.
it too real for them. And we didn't use the word gay because our local attorney that we had hired said, "You don't need to use the word gay, it's a private business." Anyway,
Okay.
so we went to the director of the zoning board, her name was Joan Wright, and told her that we were proposing to do a private campground with a bed and breakfast, and asked her how she would like us to approach it. And she said, "Well, we'd like to approach it, in 2 steps. Bed and breakfast first. It's very difficult to get a bed and breakfast license in this county. Most of the things that are going to be required for your campground are also required at bed and breakfast. So if you get that passed, it should be a little bit easier for you to get your campground license."
Okay.
And so I told her, I said, "Well, this is not how we exactly wanted to approach this, but since you said that's how you would like us to approach it, we're going to approach it that way." So we got on a good footing with her, and so we had our first zoning board hearing. There's a 5-member zoning board in Brown County, and so that was a situation where we notified all the neighbors, and so we did more than that. We notified people like 3 miles out.
Oh, wow.
600 feet within property lines, all that's required. But I don't want
Wow.
people to know, because there's no other businesses in this quadrant of Brown County, northeastern Brown County. The first meeting we went to, there were 45 people in attendance with 5 things on the docket that night. We were the 5th of the 5. 40 of them were people from the immediate area that were initially very opposed to us doing any sort of business here at all. So we heard some interesting things at that first meeting.
I should think.
Yeah, one of the mildest was the neighbor to the north, who's now deceased. She stood up and she wanted to know how we were going to run a bed and breakfast without a woman being involved. Now, remind me, this is going back 20-some years, so
Yeah.
we're in a much different place with our neighbors these days. But another neighbor asked, he stood up and he said, "Yeah, I'm sure that they know that sex offenders have to register with the sheriff's department whenever they move into the county, but their clients don't. And I'm worried about my granddaughters getting raped, And my attorney had to basically hold me down to keep me from responding because I wanted to, fight. But
And one neighbor was worried that her kids were going to get AIDS from mosquitoes.
There's a genius born every minute. You know.
yeah. So anyway, the heat of the meeting, the zoning board found a reason for us to have to come back. They wanted some time to pass so we could come. We'd go back 3 months later. They wanted some time to pass to let the temperature settle down. So they were talking about the water source and what type of water source do you have, and we're like, well, we applied for it to have our meter tap set, and one of the neighbors responded. She says, "Well, they think they're going to get their county water, but we've been on the wait list for 5 years." We had done the projections before we went and provided them to the water department, Anyway, that was the thing that they wanted to see happen before they could
Okay.
do the final approval for the bed and breakfast, and we had that done within a week.
Wow.
So then, when we went back a couple months later, we were approved. There were 3 that night. Thought two were sick. Going into the meeting, the director of the zoning board told me that she was concerned that there was only 3, and you had
We had to get
3 of
100%
5.
guesses with only 3.
And
Oh, I see.
she said, you
I
might
see.
want to table this just to be safe. And I told her, I said, I've prayed about this and I feel real good about what we've done. So we're going to go for it. And so we did, and we got 3 yes votes, and we got our first license.
And that's the ball started rolling.
Yeah, that's where it
Wow.
started. In that
Wow.
first fall, we were doing, Ben and I and a cousin of mine, we were doing all the infrastructure, literally building the shower house, the original shower house,
Okay.
from ground up.
Yeah.
We dug over 5,000 feet of water line, 4 feet deep from the entrance down to deep into the campground.
Wow.
Added RV sites during the same fall. We were doing all this before the fall, but during that fall, we ran heterosexual people through here because Brown County is extremely popular in the fall for the changing of the leaves.
Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
beauty.
Yes, it's real pretty. And so we run straight people through here, straight families. We invited the neighbors, we gave them 50% coupons for their family members to spend the holidays here.
Wow.
None of them took us up on it, but it worked. And
Wow.
yeah, so then when we did that, and we were sold out every weekend, and so it was a successful mainstream bed and breakfast. But then the following year, when we went back to apply for our larger license, the bed and breakfast or the campground license, the neighbors just assumed that we were going to maintain our clientele as was. So none of them
There was
showed
no
up.
opposition.
Nobody showed up
Oh, I
to
see.
oppose
I
us.
see. Okay.
So
He's crafty.
it was by design.
So it worked.
So we were approved for that 5-0. So on that one,
And about our neighbors, we have some really good friends that are neighbors, and
Yeah.
some really good allies. So, I mean, we get asked a lot about, how's the neighborhood? How do your neighbors react? Most of them are great. So,
yeah, we had an issue in 2019 where a regime had changed down in Brown County. And so they required us to come back and basically get permission for a lot of the expansion. Because when we opened, we had 5 RV sites, we had 20 tent sites, and this bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Rusty's recreational barn, which looked way different back then, and the old tool barn, the red tool barn by the hot tub. That was all that was here, and that's all that we were approved for.
Oh, I see. I see.
So
the pool was here in the shower house. We built the pool in the shower house.
Yeah.
And that was all.
So, but we opened very small, that's
Yeah.
what we were approved for. But in 2019, we had a situation where we had to go back before the zoning board with a new regime. So it's invite the neighbors again. And that it was kind of pretty testy. There were four neighbors that showed up, but there were lots of neighbors that called us and told us that they were supportive of us.
Beautiful.
The neighbor at the end of the lane, he called and he said, he said, Darrel, when you guys moved in 20 years ago, he said, I was against you. I spoke against you at the original zoning board. And he said to me, but you guys have been good neighbors. He said, no, actually, you are our best neighbors. And
That's quite a compliment.
so yeah, we've come a long way. Most of our neighbors feel that way about us. They see what we do. We do a lot of charity work. Our members help us. Most years, we're the #1 private donor of the only soup kitchen, food pantry in this county. So we've made a lot of inroads with our neighbors.
And it's been important for us to be somebody who gives back to the community, and
Sure.
it's always been important for us to be good neighbors. Like, we never wanted to be like, oh, it's our way or the highway. We live in a neighborhood, and we've been blessed to have a business in a county, so it's our responsibility to be good stewards and to be part of the community.
Case in point of that, and the main reason that some of the 4 neighbors that were down there, the main problem that they had with us was the noise late at night.
Sure.
And we understood that they were right. That so what we did is we strictly implemented the 10 o'clock curfew that was always there, that we hadn't enforced. We started enforcing it, but also Rusty's, we did a complete transformation of
We
Rusty's.
renovated the party barn and insulated and soundproof.
Oh, I see.
Made
Okay.
it sound
We made a lot of changes because they were right. It was too noisy.
And we
Yeah.
to
it was our
become better
responsibility
neighbors.
to make sure that we coexisted peacefully.
But you've told me that Camp Buckwood exists in plain. What was your wording? It was
Hidden in plain sight.
hidden in plain sight. Yes. Explain what you mean.
Well, like when we were looking for property, we didn't want a big long frontage road or signage or anything like that. But and it was challenging at first before the Google Maps and all that stuff.
Oh,
for,
sure.
For people to find us, but
Yeah.
they did. And but we, you know, once they come in the gate, they stay. There's not a lot of you know, we're just tucked back in the woods, and that's the way we wanted it to be.
But it's grown tremendously since what you were depicting upon opening.
Yes.
I mean, as I come here and I look out here, I don't know how many hundred RVs, tents, and whatever else is out there. How has that happened?
So, well, the same way it started basically is us doing, you know, the infrastructure ourselves. You know, we would see a need where the biggest demand was, whether it was RV sites, tent sites, cabins, those sort of things, and we would do it. We've been blessed from the beginning. We've had a lot of help from members. A lot of our members, you know, they just they see a need, they will help us with it. If we're working on a particular project, like, you know, either putting in a new water line or repairing a water line, we have different members that just jump right in and help us and
Wow.
things like
Wow.
that. So.
I mean, it all goes back to this building a community. Like, there's no way we could thank everybody for all the extra hands. We also had a motto that's like, we'll do what we can do when we can do it, when
Yeah.
time and money permits. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the way we've always had to do things because we didn't have a bunch of money coming into it. So we had to,
Sure.
and it's not easy to get financing for a male-only clothing optional business. I mean, it limits.
It immediately eliminates you from any SBA type loan,
Sure.
period, because of like
Or
Ben
HUD
just said.
financing, or
But it,
so we
you
had
know,
to be creative. And
yeah, we were.
frugal, and luckily our patrons bore with some of the rusticness of the campground. But you know what? We always had fun. Like from the very beginning, it was fun, and it was just something different and something new for the gay community. So.
You've both brought up the word community, and that is something I definitely want to talk about because it's as an outsider, when I came here, that was the first thing I noticed. How welcoming the people were, how involved they were in the overall scheme of things here, and that was fascinating for me to see. When we were preparing for this, you told me you've had weddings here, the spreading of ashes here, your own pride parade here in Camp Buckwood, various parties, even a kidney donation.
Yes.
Tell me about all of that.
Where do you start? Like especially in a tight-knit community where there's a need for somebody. So actually, when one of our members needed a kidney, there were 3 people who went and got tested, and 2 of them made it well deep into the process. One was a close partner with the guy, and then the other 2 were just acquaintances and friends.
Met through the campground.
Met
Sure,
here at the
yeah,
campground. You know, they're all from different states, and eventually 2 made it to the final round, and 1 was eliminated in the final round, but the kidney transplant went through. And
How did these people even know someone needed a kidney? How did that topic?
Well,
So,
you just said-
campfire stories.
campfire stories, and you just
Wow.
Part of the community is caring about each other, of
Sure.
course, you know.
Yes.
So, you know,
Yeah.
those sort of things. So you share the good, and you also share the bad.
But
Wow.
Darrel's niece was married here.
Yes, I actually got certified to the internet to be what a minister.
Ordained.
Oh my God.
So my family actually came over, and my oldest niece, I officiated their wedding right on the dock. So
Wow.
Yeah, we've had
other weddings
gay
here as
couples
well.
get married here. We've had straight couples get married here. We've had
Straight couples even.
Yes,
fluid
right.
couples get married here. Like, yeah, it's
Wow.
this place means a lot to a lot of different people that have come
Clearly,
through.
Yes.
absolutely it does.
And it's I don't know. We felt it from the very beginning, driving down the lane. Like
Yeah,
this
it
is
felt
someplace
magical
special.
from the
Yeah.
beginning.
It's one of those things you can't put your finger on, but you just know it
You
exists.
feel it, yeah. And we found this in January of 2021, and so you know what Indiana in January looks like.
Yeah.
It's not exactly pretty, you know, but still.
And a lot of people will say, you know, this place saved their life. Like if they're going through a rough time, or they were isolated by COVID, or you know,
Yeah.
if they just the shit hit the fan and they were just checking out and they arrive here and meet all these wonderful people that it turned their outlook around. So that's the kind of thing that like you just hope you hear from a business that you create, and when you do hear it, it's just
very humbling.
Unbelievable.
I love that.
But as far as it had to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
And so I think maybe that's the essence of your question. And so, with any new business, you need to establish an identity.
Sure.
And having the years of experience in the gay bar and being gay, one of the things we realized that a lot of us gay guys have attitude,
Oh, yes.
And so we wanted to make sure that Buckwood was not that place. So the number one rule that we enforced from the beginning was leave all your drama and attitude at the front gate and pick it up on your way out. But we enforced that, and what that looked like. Within that first year and a half, there was probably 20 to 30 people throughout that first season and a half that didn't make it through the check-in process.
Wow.
Or were uninvited.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We took it very seriously.
Yeah.
People wouldn't feel good about themselves.
One of my favorite references where that is concerned is I was working in the office at the beginning. There was just three of us, Ben, Cody, and myself, and I was the office person. And so there was this younger guy that came in with two guys, probably in he was probably 19. The two guys he was with were probably early 40s, and they had their S10 packed full of stuff ready to go camping. And the young one asked me something, and he said, well, who's here? And I'm like, well, we've got a mix of a lot of different guys here. And he said, well, it's probably nothing but fat, nasty old men anyway.
Oh, boy.
And I said, well, you're wrong, but you're also not going to be here.
And you're never going to find out who's
You'll never find out. There's these wonderful guys that you're going to miss out on. And I said, you have to go. And he's like, seriously? I'm like, yes, seriously. And his friends were like, what the fuck? And they're like, if we take him home, can we come back? I'm like, of course you can come back. He's the guy with the attitude. And so they took him home and they came back and had a good time. So
it's earned us a bit of a reputation as being kind of a hard ass, but like it's necessary.
We don't care.
Yes.
We've never cared whether a person, is a multimillionaire or on food stamps, whether they're a doctor or whether they're a factory worker. We're all the same. Once we get that membership, we treat each other with respect.
Yeah.
And have a good time.
Yeah.
So
We are still at Camp Buckwood in Spearsville, Indiana. I have the unique honor today to interview the mayor of Camp Buckwood, a gentleman who has been here since day one, and that is Jay Jones. Welcome to Inside Leather History, a Fireside Chat. I would like you to tell us a little bit about why you're called the mayor.
It started out as a joke. One of the guys that used to come here, a couple that came camping a lot, was always here the same time I was. And he said, you're always here. Are you the mayor? And he got everybody to start calling me the mayor. And it was a joke. But then I saw a way to pick up on that, and it was fun. And I have a deal about paying your taxes, and it's real simple. You just got to show me certain parts of your persons, and I will consider your taxes paid for the year. And you are delinquent, by the way. You've been here for 2 days and haven't paid yet, so.
Or am I priceless?
Well, that might be, but
So-
that's how that all got started. And there, but to expand on that, there were people who actually thought I had power, and because they would come to me all the time in the early years and say, "You need to talk to Ben and Darrel about this." And I'm going, "You understand? I have no power. It's just a title for fun." And they, and to this day, some of them still don't get it, that it's just a title. I mean, it's not that I was ever afraid to talk to Ben and Darrel about stuff, but I'd say that's something you need to take up with them. I'm not getting involved. So,
You tell us a little bit about the community from which you came.
I come from a conservative county in the east side of the east central part of the state. I was close to Muncie, Indiana, was the biggest town
Okay.
close to us. I always knew I was different, but it was then I messed around all through school and went through I thought I was totally straight phase. Got married, wasn't happy, and then I don't know, it was late mid 70s when things were starting to open up a little more, and you heard a little more about gay people, and I went to a notorious park in Muncie, and a guy pulled up and said, "I know you," and I'm like, and I recognized who he was, and anyway, it went from there, and that was my coming out day, and been going ever since.
Well, the mid-'70s had to be a very interesting time in a relatively small city in Indiana.
Well, it was. Muncie had a
Yeah.
gay bar and a upscale restaurant that was owned by gay people, and so it had a mixed clientele. So that was in '76 when I started going to gay bars, and as Ben mentioned in his part, bathhouses, and found the adult bookstores were big at that time, and so that was your life in the gay life, was bars and bathhouses and bookstores. So
Tell us a little bit about the bar in Muncie. It's, I think you said might be the oldest bar in Indiana?
think now so I've been told it is the oldest established gay bar in the state of Indiana now, since I forget which one in Indy closed, but
The 501 closed in Indiana.
well, it wasn't the 501. There was another one I think that held that title for a lot of years. But yeah, the Mark III in Muncie and
The Mark III.
Mark III.
Okay.
It was kind of a neighborhood, cozy. Always was place to go. Friday and Saturday night was
Wow.
good nights, but
How did you learn about Camp Buckwood?
it was. Well, you can edit all this out if you want. I was going to camp it. I had never heard of gay camping until the late '90s, early 2000s, in a group I belonged to, a nudist group. They were talking about a gay campground in Michigan called Camp It. And I'm
Okay,
going
yeah.
like, I'd camp trail road with my horses and stuff, and I'm going, gay campground, and it was like, I'm, quite, probably 40-some years old then, or 50, and close to 50, and it was like, I had never been to anything like it. Went one weekend, and I was hooked. I always swore I'd never sleep in a tent, and I decided tent camping was great, and
And this was at Camp It? You did
this
this?
was
Okay.
at Camp It,
Yeah.
and then my dad died unexpectedly, and a lot of things happened in a short period of time, so I wasn't able to go to Camp It in 2000, and that was in 2002. In 2003, I wasn't able to go to Camp It, and financial and other reasons, and then there was a little campground opened up in Ohio on the north of Dayton, and so that was close, and it was in August, so went and enjoyed it. Went the next spring in 2004 to set up and cleanup weekend, and on Monday morning we got an email and said, if you have anything at Camp in Ohio, you need to go get it. He's been closed down.
Wow.
So
Wow.
found out it was a fly-by-night operation, but anyway.
Yeah.
So that was in April, and then it was right before Mother's Day, and I was on Yahoo on the computer looking, and this Camp Buckwood appeared, and I started reading about it, and it was a gay campground in Brown County, Indiana. I'd spent many weekends in Brown County trail riding at the state park, and I thought, I don't have anything to do. It's the day before Mother's Day. I'm going to go for a drive. And I drove down here, and I printed off the directions, and luckily I found it. Pulled in the driveway, and Ben and Darrel met me, and I kind of said, is this the gay campground? And they said, yeah, and they showed me all around, and of course then there was the lodge and the
Yeah.
pool. The one part of the deck wasn't even finished yet, and the shower houses and the two camping areas. And I said, well, I'm hooked. How much is my membership? And I paid my membership that day, and I said, can I hang around? Yeah. And Ben and I sat up at the pool and talked for most of the afternoon. And I said, I'll be back Memorial weekend. And I called some friends and said, I found a new place for us, and I think it's going to be a good deal. I mean, just from talking to Ben and Darrel that day. And we, that Memorial weekend, couldn't tell you how many people were here, but we had a hell of a lot of fun. Darrel said the tent camping was up there where there's on the other side of Rusty's where you've seen it. And I said, Darrel, I don't really want to camp up there. I said, what's about this area over here across from the pool? I want to be back here with the action. And I was, well, I guess you can camp there. So that's where we set up house. And I started coming about every other weekend, and
But you were the first customer, weren't
I
you?
was the first. Well, they say I was the first paying cup for the gay campground part of
Yeah.
it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's and it's been great. I never regretted it ever.
So how many years have you been coming?
I came from '04 to '08. Was here every weekend almost, and then I met my partner here in '08, and we came the next year. Then we kind of went a different direction, and it had nothing to do with Buckwood. It was just that we was doing other things, and
Yeah.
so we were out here for we'd come maybe once or twice a year, but we were doing other stuff, and but then I had some major surgery done. Well, no, that wasn't right either. A good friend that I had met here passed away unexpectedly, and we had all talked, and I said, we ought to go to Buckwood and do a memorial for Tom, and everybody agreed, and we all came, and everybody had such a great time that weekend, and I was like, I missed that, and we did, and so we started coming back, and then I had to have that surgery, and so this was close, and I could still camp, and so it was. It's just been great, and I've been here every weekend since, just about. So,
Well, tell us about the changes you've seen here, because it's been. I mean, you see different things all the time.
well, like I said, when they first started, they had swimming pool, the hot tub, and the shower house, and a few campsites and a few tent sites, and that was it. And every year, I'll argue with anybody who wants to argue. Every year, when they told you they put back, they have. Every year they've added something, and it's usually visual. You see what they have done.
Yeah.
And there's been a few years. One year, I remember when they put in a new septic system, everybody was grumbling. Well, they didn't do anything this year. And I said, well, yeah, they did. I said, it's if you see that big mound when you're coming in, they did something. That's just not something that it benefits you, but you don't realize.
You don't see it.
And so that's like every year they put back, and it's growing. Needed a bigger pool. I remember in the beginning, everybody'd say, I wish they'd have built a bigger pool. And I said, hey, they got a pool.
Yeah.
I said, when I was going to camp, they just got a pool. I said, they opened with a pool. So, and that's always been my thing. They've done what they needed to do, and if you don't like it, then go elsewhere. So that's so this is growing all the RV sites and the cabins, and it's upward and onward. It's just been great.
What do you feel Camp Buckwood affords you personally and the community?
From the beginning, a place to go be myself, the option of being naked or clothed. There's all the little side benefits, which they mentioned, but the camaraderie, I think.
What do you feel Camp Buckwood affords you personally and the community?
A safe, friendly, fun environment where you can be yourself, you can be naked, you can be dressed. There's fun amenities if you want them. You've got the pool, the hot tub, campfires. I mean, it's friendships galore. It's just something, meeting new people all the time. That's what it affords me. A safe, fun place where I can come and be myself.
That's beautiful. Beautiful to hear. Someone somewhere is going to see this video. Now, they may want to come here. What advice can you offer someone coming for the first time? What should they bring, not bring? What do you think?
I always recommend don't go out and spend a lot of money if you're tent camping on stuff until you know you're going to like it. I always say make sure you have something good to sleep on, a tent big enough to stand up in. And a lot of people laugh at me, but I'm older, so the standing up's important. But anyway, and don't be afraid if you forgot something or you don't have it to ask somebody, because I don't have an air mattress in my tent, but I always keep an air mattress pump at my site, because there's always somebody forgetting one, or they bought an air mattress and thought it was built in. And so if you come and you don't have it, ask. Somebody will have it, loan it to you, help you out. We used to have a joke around here in the early days. Guys would come here as it was new, and this was a new thing, and they'd come with their new tents and had never set them up. And
Wow.
so my old buddy Dow, he's 90 this year, but we would sit and watch him, and we'd say, you know, if you get naked, that tent will go up faster. And you know, he's 20 years older than me, so you know, we're sitting here, these two dirty old men, and after a while they'd get frustrated and they'd say, how's it going to go up faster if we get naked? And we say, try it. And we've had a few that got naked. As soon as they got naked, we got up and helped them put their tent up, and a short period of time they was in business. So I mean, it was fun, and you know, that
Very neighborly anyway.
We're dirty old men, and it was fun to get them to get naked, and you know, and it was an icebreaker for a lot of people. You know, them two dirty old men are kind of fun, and then I always notorious for having a big fire, and there was always people sitting around the fire and tell stories, and so.
Now, what do you feel is the biggest misconception about Camp Buckwood?
What Ben said about the outdoor bathhouse, I hear that over and over and over again, and my thing is, it's what you want it to be. If that's what you want, it can be that. But if you want to come here and today you want to be social and tomorrow you just want to hang by yourself, you can do that. If you want the pool, you've got the pool. If you want the lake, you can just come and be yourself. Leave your attitude, I'm better than you attitude, I've got this attitude, leave it. Just come, open-minded, open heart. And don't be afraid. I mean, I'm notorious. I've been told I'm the best cat caller in the camp because, you know, I will talk to you when you walk by, like, you know, you look better naked, or, you know, I say little rude and crude things, you know, probably sexual harassment in some worlds, but in mine it's all legal, so. But it's fun, and it's usually an icebreaker, and it's like, if you're new here and you're shy and you're walking around, if somebody doesn't say hi to you, just say hi. I mean, most of the time there's always a lot of people around my fire, and that we're always talking to people when they go by. And you know, sit down, warm up, just say, can I warm up by your fire? And before you know it, you've made a new friend. And
That's beautiful.
And that's the way it's always been.
How do you want to be remembered by the Camp Buckwood community?
Well, hopefully in a good light, that I did what I could and pitched in when they needed me and helped them out, and like everybody else, but just somebody that was fun and made people feel welcome. I always ask people where they're from, if this is their first time, and I tell them welcome to Camp Buckwood, and you know, sometimes I whip the mayor stuff on them right away, and sometimes I give them an hour or two to adjust before I tell them they need to pay their taxes. And you know, I've been here for a lot of the first. I was the first one to do drag here, and I emceed the first Mr. Buckwood, and just, you know, it's always been about you know, every year they've elevated the game. It's just it's more stuff going on, things, weekends, but you don't have to go to them, you don't have to attend if you don't want, or you can be right in the middle of it. So it's whatever you want it to be.
Jay Jones, the mayor of Camp Buckwood. You have to interview the mayor.
Come see. That's it.
Thank you for contributing to Inside Leather History and the Fireside Chat.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Take care. I can't help but wonder, has there been people that you've actually had to, after they've been here and maybe they've set up, that you then had to ask to leave?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing something like that?
Well, you know, it's always difficult. Nobody likes to do it. But
Yeah.
like if you can't follow 12 simple rules that are just basic common courtesy rules, then this isn't the place for you. So
Are there any hard restrictions that you impose other than just a bad attitude? I mean, are there things
Yes,
you cannot do?
We don't allow sex in public. There's plenty of places for people to get busy, but like
Public is not one
public
of them.
is not one of them. Illegal drugs, no thanks.
Yeah.
Go do that somewhere else. We're
Yeah.
not. That's a zero tolerance
I
policy
see.
for us.
Okay.
Since 2019, as a matter of fact, this last night, the first Saturday night, we had to tell some people in Swallow Hollow tent area to turn the music
Oh,
way down.
Oh.
They had it too loud. So that's something we're really strict about these
Yeah.
days.
yeah.
So, and no in or out after 10 o'clock because of the county ordinances. Those
Oh, yeah.
are hard.
And you know, your neighbors that you're tending next to may not want to hear loud music all
True.
night long.
True.
And lights flashing. People have to coexist, you
Yeah.
know, and we can do that fun without, you know.
But you've even mentioned, I mean, we're sort of taking a slight step back, but people just stepping up and helping and being part of all of this. Tell me a little more about that because we don't hear that really anywhere else.
Yeah, so one instance last year, we have different little gardens around and landscaping, and there was one Saturday last year where we looked and there was just a couple of guys we didn't even recognize, but they were, of course, signed in here and they were just weeding
my
one of
gosh.
the gardens. And,
Wow.
And
I
things
mean,
like that.
where do you start? Like, we have seasonals that missed the bathrooms after COVID started, just for safety reasons, and we've had people like Jay who would volunteer to like freshen up the bathrooms and clean the bathrooms
And brought over the urns, what do you call the ashtray?
cigarette butt.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
different things like that.
They'll-
Things that clean the floor.
They'll see a need in like that and provide it for us.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
they'll help build the pavilion that we had. We had a barn raising. It was like 15 guys, and they came over, and in a day and a half, it was built.
Incredible.
Just
Incredible.
there's countless stories of guys like offering ideas and then pitching in and asking nothing for it, and just because they want this place to be the best place, and I think it is. I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's the best campground in America, North America.
Currently, there's a couple of guys that are completely redoing the outdoor shower kitchenette area of our Lakeview cabin.
Oh, wow.
Because they saw
Wow.
that it was becoming a little bit run down.
One of our customers replumbed the main shower house.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And we have a customer that's an electrician that has just taken it upon himself just to upgrade different areas of electricity here in the campground at no cost. So the list goes on, like Ben said.
Like, I know I'm just gonna leave people out and examples out, and I don't want to, because it's every little thing that people have done.
Well, the guy walking by right now, he and his husband, I mean, anytime we have something like a pitch-in or anything like that, they get the tables
set
out,
up, and
they help set up, they help tear down without even being asked. And it's
Oh my
like,
God.
one of our customers runs karaoke and is like,
right.
gets ideas on lighting, like upgrading the lighting and luster. Like, you can't find a place on the campground where a customer's impact isn't felt.
Yeah.
You mentioned COVID though, a couple of moments ago. I know that had a major challenge for you, major impact on everything. How did you navigate COVID?
Well, from the very beginning, I could not understand from a businessman's standpoint as to why campgrounds would not be one of the essential businesses, because it's outdoors, it's something that people could do that would definitely not have a problem being 6 feet away from each other. So we went to the governor a couple of times and didn't give a response to expressing that. But then campgrounds were one of the first things that people could do.
Okay.
And so what happened was people would come from the cities, mainly Chicago, here, even during the week, because they could literally do nothing else socially.
Yeah.
So what happened with that was if people that had never been camping before in their life, never thought they would ever go camping, they came camping. Guys that hadn't been camping for years went camping again, and they fell back in love with it. And so what it did, and it was like a perfect storm for us, because in 2019, when we went back before the zoning board, and they said, be quiet after 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Well, in 2020, when we opened that following, season, we implemented that. Well, we had this influx of all new clients. We still had our regular clients, but we had a bunch of new people. And they were never used to Big Buckwood not being quiet before 10 o'clock. So it was like a seamless, wonderful transition there.
Yeah.
And the main reason we went to the zoning board was to get our new pool and stuff. So like that was done right as COVID was starting. So all these new people saw the big improvements, and
Sure.
and it was one of the only things that people could do socially. So it really kind of was.
It took our clientele and it really reduced the average age of our clientele. So, it made us a lot younger. And, that didn't hurt either because, we had a lot of wonderful, middle-aged guys and somewhat younger and some older and all. But then that influx of youth, which is tomorrow's customer, if you will.
Sure,
Yes. Created a new dynamic for sure.
And it mixes very well together.
Yeah.
So, people come here, it may be a busy party weekend, and you've got a whole list of things, and I know I have it in here somewhere, of things that are coming up during this season. You've got, I think I put it in my thing, leather weekend, fetish weekend, whatever, all these things. I can't help but ask, after a busy weekend, and you go to clean up, you go to pick up around the site, what crazy things do you find?
A toy in the shape of a fist, I can swallow a hollow about 10 years ago.
Somebody lost their dentures at the Fort Dix.
You may have to explain what Fort Dix is to somebody that hasn't seen this.
Well, there are glory holes in Fort Dix, and he probably slipped them out to enjoy the glory hole. Whoops. Somebody stepped on him and
Oh!
But we found less interesting things too, like iPhones and iPads and things like that,
Oh, one thing kind of interesting, like we've never had any kind of thievery or any, like it's one of the safest places on there.
Yeah.
And some guy had left his stereo outside and had walked away from it. Well, it had begun to rain, so one of the people nearby brought it inside to save it from the rain.
Yeah.
The guy goes, "Somebody stole my stereo, blah blah blah." I'm like, "I don't think so, but we'll look for it." And we ended up finding it. So like, I don't know. That's kind of off the topic, but like, people save stuff, and like our lost and found is full of clothes and sunglasses and.
Oh, okay.
So, but we get the occasional
Dildos
and dentures.
Like, that's funny. Oh my gosh. And did the guy that lose the dentures ever say anything?
He got it back. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Somebody who may want to come here for the first time, somebody who sees this video, what advice can you offer someone that may want to do that?
I would say come in with an open mind. Put yourself out there, be friendly. Use the space as you would like it within the rules, and you'll have a good time. There's something for everybody.
Right, it Camp Buckwood, like anywhere in life, is what you make it, It was,
Sure.
It's a couple of years before the longtime owner of Greg's Gay Bar in Indianapolis, and I were having a conversation in Greg's, and he asked me, he had never been here before, and he asked me, so what is it? And so I told him that. I said, it's what you make it. I said, you can come and lay yourself up in the sling all weekend. If that's what you're looking for, you can do that. You can bring a book and hang out by the pool or down by the lake and read it, and everything in between.
Yeah.
It's literally what you make it. So, a lot of misconception with first timers, especially some that are more conservative, is that because we're clearly nuptial, what they hear is everybody has to be naked.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
So, and you can wear whatever you want, like
as much or as little as you want.
There was this really nice looking guy, beard, fur, muscles. He's like, "Can I wear a Speedo to the pool?" And I'm like, "You could bounce down the lane on a pogo stick with tutu and angel wings, and you would be just fine. You can literally wear whatever you want here." Yeah.
It was a challenge this weekend, though. It's been so cold. I tell you. Yeah. But so you've had people come from all over. What are some of the places furthest placed, for example?
There was a guy from Hong Kong. We have a guy from Germany.
Wow.
We have regular guys that come from Virginia just to come here
On the weekend, on the holiday weekend.
Wow.
We get guys from California every year, Las Vegas. We get people from Seattle, Washington, as far up as Maine. And a lot of those people, they will be crossing the country, and we're one of their stops. But we have been for 15, 17, 20 years.
Right,
You know,
people
so-
from Canada, Mexico.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
people from all over. And we have a group from Washington, D.C. that comes to camp just to come to camp.
One of them, his name is Joe from Chicago. He's one of the guys that found us during COVID and fell in love with the place. He told me just a couple of weeks ago for cleanup weekend that this place literally saved his life.
Wow.
But he had such a wonderful time and experience here his first time. He told his best friends that live in Washington, D.C., and so they come in. Now they come directly
3
from
or
D.C.
4 times a year.
to here 3 or 4
Wow.
times a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we're becoming a destination, you know,
Yeah.
like when people go, Indiana. The guy from Germany, I went and picked him up from the airport last year in Chicago, and we
Okay.
went out to eat at Replay in
Okay, yes.
Andersonville.
Yeah.
And the waiter noticed his accent and said, "Oh, where are you from?" He's like, "I'm from Germany." And he said, "How long are you going to be in Chicago?" He goes, "Well, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Indiana." And the waiter said, "Indiana? The only thing good in Indiana is Camp Buckwood."
Ah.
He started laughing. He was like, "Where are we going?" Yeah, he had never been here before, so he was excited.
Well, you even told me just earlier today you don't even have anonymity in Chicago.
No, I don't.
People know who you guys are. Yeah.
It's tough to go to the back room and touche, not be recognized.
Along those exact lines, this is really like humbling and just a wonderful experience that he and I had together recently, a couple of years ago. We were on a cruise, we were on a gay cruise, and we were in
On the
Panama.
train on the Panama
And-
Canal.
Yeah, we had gone by bus from one coast to Panama City, the other coast, and on the way back we took a train, and we were on this train and we were talking and to each other, and this guy we'd never seen before, and he kind of says, you guys are the owners of Camp Buckwood. I heard that the owners of Buckwood were on this cruise.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh wow. You know, so it's like, and he had never been here before either, so.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
right.
I mean, it's like,
It really has to be
It's flattering. And,
Yeah.
you want to make an impact in your life if you can, and I feel like we have positively impacted a lot of people with Camp Buckwood, and they have certainly positively impacted us. I mean, I never would have, if you would have told me when I was 18, you're going to own a clothing optional campground and for men in Indiana, I'd be like,
Yeah.
what are you on? There's no way that that's going to happen.
But as far as impacting the community, that's how we've always felt like about our regular community, getting back to that.
Yeah.
And after that 2019 zoning board experience in which we were approved again, the president of the board came downstairs where we were just kind of having to get together afterwards. And he said, although you wouldn't know it from what you guys just experienced up there, you have a lot of support and admiration in this county. So, you know,
That's
it's out
beautiful.
there.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to be said about Indiana politics, but a lot to be said about how beautifully you're being treated.
Yeah.
Well, Indiana has always been kind of a place in that conservative vein where it's like, this is your land, you know,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you do what you want to do, we'll do what we want to do. But it requires some responsibility on our end to
Yeah.
be good neighbors and vice versa. But, you know, it's nice that a lot of people in state and local government can see a gay business and be like, oh, okay, take the fear out of it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the police are never out here.
Yeah.
We have very few ambulances ever out here. There's never a problem. There's no theft. There's no, you know, there's
Wow.
none of that stuff that in society causes people's hairs to rise.
Right.
So then they go, oh, it's not so bad, you know?
Well, someday, somebody seeing this video is going to want to come here. How can they contact you two?
Well, campbuckwood.com is our website. It's got tons of information, all the contact information, info@campbuckwood.com is our email address. And yeah, we're
Okay.
open 7 days a week from late April to Halloween. And yeah, and we have Facebook chatter page and
Yes.
Some people find us just simply by checking, like gay camping,
Sure.
Midwest or Indiana. I mean, with our history here, Google puts us up towards the top, if not the top, definitely for Indiana. So, but most people just campbuckwood.com is the best way.
And I would say take what you read online with a grain of salt, get some inspiration or whatever. But when you come here, just make it what you want it. Yeah.
But someday you two are going to retire. Someday. How do you want to be remembered, not just by the camp, but by the gay community at large?
That we maybe make the gay community a little bit better. That and
we expose the gay community to a new creative way to have fun and meet people. It used to be the gay bars all the time in the 80s and 90s, and that was awesome. And it was like it was the gateway to gays having success in society because they had a place to meet. But just when he owned the bar in Cincinnati, there were boards up on the windows, as I'm sure you remember. Lots of bars had no windows, so you couldn't see who's in there. Well, he's like, we're taking the windows down. We're gonna be right downtown. We're gonna open it up. We're gonna exist openly in our community, and that wasn't always easy to do back then.
Right.
And that was, that's what we did here. This, to our knowledge, we were the first gay campground to actually have a sign at the entrance.
Wow.
We had been to several other gay campgrounds before, so I don't know for sure, but any of the ones we went to, you just had to try to find them. So to take that risk, we would want people to still feel comfortable, taking a risk and putting yourself out there to help advance our lifestyles.
I would definitely like to be known as somebody who just introduced the gay community to a new fun thing in life. And I don't know. I'm glad I was born gay. I wouldn't change it if I had the choice. So I'm just glad to be part of the gay community. It's been a wonderful community to live in and work in for 30 years.
I love concluding my interviews by asking my guest, usually because it's only one person, what's the biggest misconception about you? But in this case, I'm going to ask both of you, what's the biggest misconception about Camp Buckwood?
You want to go?
Well, we've heard it from the beginning. It's nothing but an outdoor bathhouse. I'm like, I heard that from somebody that I was sitting in a hot tub in a bathhouse with. He said, I would never go there. It's an outdoor bathhouse. I'm like, but you're in a bathhouse now. I'm like,
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a campground. It's not an outdoor bathhouse. I love bathhouses. I've been to bathhouses all over the world, but we're different. We're not an outdoor bathhouse. There's a component of camping at a gay campground that's sexual, yes, but it's also community. It's also solitude. It's also peace. It's also fun. It's so much more than what most people think it is.
So for me, I would say build on that is that that it's not all sexual for all people. Some guys come here, then they're asexual, or they want to participate in the brotherhood. They get that. But the biggest misconception, I think, from my perspective, is that going back to the clothing optional thing, there will be people that think that everybody's naked here. We did a little survey sort of a thing by just using our existing, say, 100 seasonals. And we felt like that's a pretty good reflection of our business. And 30% of our seasonals we will see naked in the common areas. But that means 70% of them are not naked. So one of the issues is if someone has never even been around any totally optional environment, they will come to a place and they'll see 2 or 3, 5 naked people, and in their mind, in their perception, everyone's naked because it's such a shock for them. So that is something that occasionally, it's like I wish that wasn't so prevalent that that everybody's naked here, because everybody's not naked. It's a matter of choice.
And the funny thing about being around naked people all the time, like if someone came up and talked to me and I had a conversation with them and they turned around and laughed and someone said, "Was that person wearing clothes?" I'd be like, "I don't know."
Yeah, you just don't see that for a while.
It's just skin.
Yeah.
more clothes. You know, yeah, it's just normal.
Well, Darrel, Gill, and Ben Gleason, I have got to thank you two for an amazing interview, for Inside Leather History, a Fireside Chat, and thank you for welcoming me to Camp Buckwood, welcoming us all.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, well, see, part of that is that this is our home.
Yes.
We live here also, so unlike the bar, when we had the bar, we're inviting people into our home, and that's the way we feel about it.
Yeah.
We're thankful for every one of you.
And thanks for coming.
Yes,
My
thank you for
pleasure.
being here.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the Fireside Chat channel for more chapters in the history of leather. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe.